In this video, I want to talk about the cycle of abuse. So you might be in the throes of confusion at the end of an emotionally abusive relationship. It might have happened to you years ago and you're still not quite got over it. Emotional abuse is unique and it's not like the ending of any normal relationship. It's a bit like a verruca. It penetrates you on so many different levels. Unless you get the whole of the virus, it lays dormant, waiting to be triggered again. Hello, my name is Elizabeth Goddard from Revive Your Soul, and on this channel I talk about healing from emotional abuse and healing from trauma bonds. The things that keep you trapped in that relationship, craving the attention of the abuser, wanting them back in your life. If you're new to this channel, please like and subscribe, and if you're returning, welcome back and thank you. Emotional abuse is unique and it's not like the ending of a normal relationship. Emotionally healthy people want to move on and they will do everything in their power to make sure that the other person gets the closure they need to understand, accept and heal. If you've experienced emotional abuse, then this will not be what you're experiencing. You are trapped in a trauma bond that you now need to untangle from. I've described it before like bindweed grabbing hold of you and strangling the life out of you. And it's the trauma bond that keeps you trapped for so long. And because the abuser is unhealthy emotionally, they don't want you to have closure. What they do want is for you to still be somewhere in the background, ready to leap into action when they send you a message or call you. They play with your emotions and they know exactly what to say to get a reaction. You were their project, and like any good student, they studied really hard. They saw what you were able to provide them with, something they couldn't get from someone else. They upgraded to you. You might have had more money, given them better attention. You might have had better contacts to enable them to upgrade their life. They might have been homeless or about to become homeless, and they needed to secure you as quickly as possible to ensure you didn't escape. And once they have set their eyes on the prize, they become very committed to winning. The reason it hurts so much is due to the chemicals which they triggered within you, breaking down your boundaries. There are 3 stages to this. There's the idealisation, also known as love bombing, where you might receive gifts, been out, days out, weekends away, meals. They're your soulmates. You create a fake future together. They constantly text you or send you messages. You have experienced long phone calls with them. There's constant attention, and it's here they're letting you know their expectations of you. There's the devaluation stage where there are slight put downs. They compare you to others. Their words don't quite match up with their actions. They erode your personality, destroy your confidence, and they smash your boundaries. And then there's the discard stage. The discard can happen many times in this type of relationship. They withdraw from you, they disappear, they go silent, they get secretive, they use cognitive dissonance, mindfuckery. The damage they cause puts you in a state of confusion because you had no idea this abuse was taking place. And it's a bit like Chinese water torture. It happened very slowly and it's turned you insane. You were trapped, you were picked, and they groomed you. It was done so subtly, but you actually fell in love with yourself. And I'll explain that in a minute. Just like the perfect student studying for an exam, everything you said and did was watched and noted. They asked you questions and they tested you at a later date. And in fact, they may still be testing you now. They know how to trigger you, and particularly if you're going through a divorce with them, they will use this bank of knowledge against you. They swept you off your feet with compliments, days out, meals out, and every need was catered for. You possibly woke in the morning to find a message from them, and this was deliberate to ensure that they were the first thing you thought about and making you believe that they were thinking about you. In reality, yours might be one of many text messages sent or many messages sent in a row. And perhaps they did the same at the end of the day. From Psychopath 3, Jackson Mackenzie's book, he quotes 6 major techniques used to brainwash you. And you might have heard these statements. We have so much in common. We have the same hopes and dreams. We share the same insecurities. You are beautiful. I've never felt this way in my life. We're soulmates. They listened and mirrored what was important to you and your values, and they repeated them back as if they were their own, and you believed them. It might have felt like you were looking in a mirror, so really you fell in love with part of yourself. But you might not feel like that now. You might be in so much pain and believe this was all your fault, wondering what you did wrong and how you can get back to that place. So I'm going to repeat this again. They listened and mirrored what was important to you, and they repeated these back as if they were their own. And as part of that process, they began not only to take over your life, but also your future. They created a bond with you that later became or becomes so hard to let go of. And this is the trauma bond. And this is the pain that runs so deeply through your body, it hurts even to move. They create a fake future with you. Nothing about it was real, but the stories around it were so believable. And you were there planning it with them. But if you look back, they had you believing that this is what you wanted. However, your dreams were overridden and completely forgotten. You shared the same insecurities, and it is again a mirror. What you saw in them was something they will have seen in you. You did everything to help them, and you received praise for that. But you might have been wondering when someone was going to help you. They placed you on a pedestal, and as they were boosting you up step by step higher, you were told that no one had ever understood them the way you did. They compared you to their exes, and you did more and more for them to show how much you did care. The compliments you received from them made you feel special. What they were actually doing is training you in order for them to receive compliments. They had never met anyone like you. You were so special. And they told you why you were so special. They compared you to their exes. And what they were doing was sending you little warning signals, affirming to you that they were exes for a reason. And if you wanted to stay in the relationship, you needed to behave in a certain way, or you would be joining that long line. Yet you didn't question what the common denominator was in their relationships. And this was due to the bonding that was taking place. You might have spotted a few red flags, but they quickly responded, extinguishing those thoughts, and you wrote them off. They told you you were meant to be together and that you were soulmates. They love the attention that they get from being romantic, and they were creating a bond. The more they talked about your amazing connection and repeated back to you the hopes and dreams they were copying, you started to believe them. You had so much in common. You were starting to map out your fake future together. They were the person of your dreams. How often did they tell you that? They told you that you are beautiful and you're the only person that has ever really understood them. Of course you're soulmates. And then you were hooked, and it was that simple. They used this technique before, and they will continue to use it. They may refine it over time, but it's a really simple formula that gets them what they're looking for. The cycle of abuse gives them the attention they crave, and they are able to manipulate and control people to avoid being abandoned themselves. During the devaluation stage, they test the water, they check that their formula is working. And if they got it right during the idealization stage, you would be more interested in protecting the relationship than you would be in protecting yourself. They made comments about your intelligence. Maybe that was something they admired you for in the beginning, or your abilities in a certain area, perhaps your hopes and dreams. A red flag maybe popped up and you questioned them, and they told you were oversensitive or that they were only joking. And it was these subtle put downs which they followed with some idealization that changed the chemical reaction in your brain. And you were addicted to the hormone rush you got from the oxytocin and the dopamine. You were confused. Why had this amazing person said this? And then they followed it up with a compliment or a gift, and all was forgiven. You felt relief and you were reinstated on that pedestal. So you ignored your intuition, which is telling you to get out or to run away, and you believed they were right. After all, how can someone who believes in you and treats you in this way be wrong? Gradually, the attention you received at the start of the relationship started to disappear, and you accepted any little crumb that they threw your way. They used techniques such as triangulation, talking way too much about their exes, who went from being devalued when they were being used as a training aid. The example used to ensure you knew if you wanted to stay in their life, you better not behave in the same way. To them being idolized in an attempt to make you jealous. They were used in this process to draw you in closer so that you would fight for their attention. They create triangles with anyone you would see as a threat. They love to turn people against each other, and they keep people just far enough apart so they can't compare anything, but close enough to ensure you know that they're a threat. And they manufacture these situations to make you jealous or question their fidelity. Everybody has a different quality of supply for them, and just like they have poisoned you, they do the same thing to everybody else in their lives. The story they made up about their crazy exes, they're now telling about you. The greater the fear you pose to them out of the relationship, the dirtier the smear campaign. You may have experienced gaslighting, where you were convinced your reality wasn't real. You didn't understand a situation, or your facts were wrong. You may have discovered lies, but they told you were wrong, or you misunderstood this situation. They weren't flirting. They weren't on a dating website. It was an old account. Their data was being used. And by the time you have collected your thoughts, they've confused you. They've turned the conversation around, and it was all your fault. And if you had given them more attention, then they would not have had to behave in this way. This is about power and control. And this is how the cycle started. Around and around and around it went. A push and pull of emotions. And you were like that child playing with a daisy. He loves me not. Only this was a really dangerous game, affecting you on so many levels. You got back into your place of safety, and they kicked the pedestal away, and you would clamber back up, and bang, it was gone again. And then they throw discards into the mixture. They use to make sure you're fully hooked. The abuser may have disappeared or not called. This could be for hours, days, weeks, months. They might make excuses as to why you can't see them. They were too busy, or they were ill and they didn't want to infect you. Or a family member was ill. And then they reappear with a gift or a compliment, and they hook you back up to that feeling that you had at the beginning of the relationship, and reaffirming that they did still love you, and you got your hormone fix and you settled back down again. The final discard came when there was nothing left for them. Perhaps they had drained you of all your finances, and you could no longer support them in the way you had done. Or you had no energy left for them, let alone yourself. Maybe they'd spotted another victim who would help them upgrade. Someone who had something more to offer, a new source of supply of attention. Because in truth, this is what you have been to them. This new person can provide them with a better quality of life. You're no longer fit for purpose. The emotional abuser might have told you that you are bipolar, and you might even wonder if this is true. But think back to a time before you met this person, and I would bet you were a normal functioning person in society. If you really do feel you have a mental health condition, please go and seek help. At the end of the relationship, one of two things happens. You either woke up and realised you had to get out, or they discarded you. When you realise you need to get away, you have woken up to the fact that something is really wrong. You realise you can't live like this anymore. Or if you were discarded, you go crazy, just like all those other crazy exes they've told you about. In this situation, you need to be really careful that you don't prove them right. But in both scenarios, you've been bonded, you've been trauma bonded, and you need to untangle from those chains. They are playing the victim, and they will paint you in a negative light. If you have been discarded, the best thing you can do is hide. It might be too late. You might have already taken to social media and told the world. You might have sent a barrage of text messages and emails, left voice messages. But please, please, please stop now. This is giving them more fuel. You are proving you are crazy and that they were right to discard you. And there might be a need to tell everyone, it wasn't me, I didn't do this, look what they did to me. Inside you is your inner child trying to get the attention it never received. Instead, go inside and seek that wound that so desperately needs healing. And if you find out they're seeing someone else, resist the temptation to contact them and tell them what happened to you. Remember, they think you're crazy, and you'll be reaffirming those stories that they've been told. Also think back to the beginning of your relationship. If somebody had made contact with you, how would you have reacted? Emotional abusers are the masters of manipulation. You need to find a tribe that have been through this. This is a unique relationship. Your friends, unless they've experienced this, will not understand what you're going through. You will be expected to get over it quickly, but you are going to need the time it takes to undo the damage and release the trauma. Don't get sucked in. This is a game to them. Hoovering is a tool that they will love to use. Hearing how broken you are. And remember trying to go no contact and getting messages saying how difficult it's going to be, that we should be together, that they wanted to help me get through this, and we're soulmates. I remember thinking, oh my God, I've got this all wrong. They do love me. And when I tried to contact them, being told that they're turning off their phone in the evening and overnight as they were so busy at work, they needed the time and space to clear their head. Perhaps you became a detective, their mask was slipping, and because you were no longer a really good source of supply of attention to them, they became careless. They really weren't bothered about covering their tracks anymore. Your intuition was kicking in. The words and the actions were not matching up. You knew something wasn't right, but you didn't know what it was. And this is the time you really need to nurture yourself. Remember, they have mirrored your insecurities. This is the gift that they gave you. You now have the opportunity to heal your wounds. There are relationships where people get cheated on, and relationships that don't work out for various different reasons. But this wasn't one of them. So ignore all the people that say you should be over this by now. They have never experienced what you have. Now is the time to heal the trauma and begin untangling yourself. Find out where it really comes from. You might be going over the relationship with yourself, having if only conversations, if only you'd done or said something, given them more attention. It's important to understand at this point, it really wouldn't matter what you said or did. This was going to happen because they were ready to move on. And when this happens, I urge you to step out of the situation, out of that constant thought process, and ask yourself where this is really coming from. Close your eyes and feel it in your body. You can ask yourself how old you are when you're feeling this pain and send love to that child. You're looking for answers. You've been trying to find out what happened. And I believe what you've experienced was for your own healing. You were targeted by a child living in an adult's body, a person who experienced an emotional disconnect at a young age. Normal relationships deteriorate. You wouldn't be feeling like this if that had happened. The acceptance and respect for another person would allow you both to walk away. For you, the trauma of understanding yourself in this is much needed. And I believe this is a really beautiful gift they have given you. And I know it probably doesn't feel like it at the moment, but you will look back and realise how far you've come. Part of you fell in love with yourself. Remember, they were mirroring all those amazing qualities that you possess. They were all the qualities they are missing. The empathy and caring for others, your inner beauty, your deep forgiving soul. These people are very insecure and they are constantly looking for validation. You are an amazing person, and I know you're hurting and you have been for a long time. But now is the time to fall in love with you. Perhaps you could try writing out your story. It could be so cathartic. Seeing the patterns you probably didn't see when you were in the relationship. You might find a huge abandonment wound that you need to heal. And a lot of the work I do is around the original wound. They mirrored your insecurities, bringing them to the surface for you to face. They walked away blaming you because they can't take responsibility. They will continue using this pattern, moving from one relationship to another. And one thing they can't take from you is the ability to heal and live an amazing life, because they don't see there's anything wrong with them. I hope you found this video useful. If you'd like to find out more about working with me on a one-to-one basis, you can visit my website reviveyoursoul.co.uk or send me an email info@reviveyoursoul.co.uk. I'm going to put the links to the 2 groups that I run on Facebook in the description box below, along with my books, Finding Lily and the A to Z of Emotional Abuse. Please don't forget to subscribe and like this video and share it if it's been helpful. Sending you loads and loads and loads of love.